Stephan Sterns was arrested in March of 2024 in connection with the murder of 13-year-old Madeline Soto in Kissimmee, Florida. After Madeline was reported missing, authorities launched an extensive search, ultimately discovering her body in a remote area of Osceola County. The medical examiner determined she had been strangled. Investigators quickly focused on Sterns, the boyfriend of Madeline's mother, Jen Soto. Evidence revealed that Sterns had been allegedly sexually abusing Madeline for years. He was charged with first-degree murder, capital sexual battery, and possession of child sexual abuse material. Sterns is currently in custody awaiting trial and could face the death penalty if convicted of Madeline's murder. Meanwhile, Madeline's mother has not been charged and is expected to testify against Sterns.
What do you think was on the phone?
Text messages. Emails. Phone stuff.
Pictures?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of pictures were on there?
Trading card pictures. Lightsaber pictures. Disney pictures.
It's interesting. I think it struck me. Obviously, he's not going to say anything about those other pictures, but trading cards and lightsabers and Disney pictures.
A lot of years he was able to masterfully figure out the art of camouflage. This is a man with deep, disturbing desires and tendencies, and he just left little breadcrumbs as to who he was inside, but what he really was a dangerous predator.
An email communicating to Dad after he's been arrested from Stephan Sterns to Chris Sterns, that's his father. I'm still waiting for the books to get into my hands. No clue if they were delivered yet. I would like Congo and The Hobbit to be among the next ones you send, please, and maybe also a book on origami. Dr. Janie Lacey, what kind of picture are you getting of Stephan Sterns? Lightsabers, little figurines, not working much, gets arrested. Please send me a copy of The Hobbit.
Well, he definitely had what we would call a dichotomous nature with what we know now with being the alleged murderer and also a predator. But when I agree with our colleague here in the sense that he had a frozen emotional state, right? So when we're hearing the recall from her friend, we're looking at the things that he's interested in, right? From an age-appropriate development, it sounds like he probably was frozen at some type of stage from a maturity standpoint. And then learn to be manipulative, to be able to, especially being a predator. Predators have grooming processes, Vinny, where they target both the parent and the child. So sometimes they can really be helpful and caring, and they can be interested in the child's welfare, so they can have the side that can attract them to the potential partner. So I would say that he probably was used to operating from this double way that he would present himself, which would probably make him attractive to certain types of people who are more vulnerable to predator type behaviors. But we do know, especially with what we know now, that he had a very dark side to him. And from a psychological standpoint, would really want to look at who he was from his childhood and some of the experiences and some of the red flags that some of the people that probably got close to him probably were exposed to.
Yeah. And, his hobbies, wouldn't be a big deal to me if there was like another piece of his life. Like he's in his 30s. Like you're working, you're building a future, you're doing something, right? But take a look. Here's another one of these communications to his father. Now we're at the point where he's been arrested. He's locked up. He knows what he's facing, which is the rest of his life in prison. So what is he talking about? More of his little figurines. As far as notes about my personal property at the house, this is to his father, it was mostly instructions for what to do with my Warhammer 50K miniatures, and terrain. As for my Battletech minis or supplies, just leave those alone for now. There's a small gray box with a red handle that is not labeled. It contains a lot of Star Wars Legion minis, and it belongs with all the stuff that is in the blue bag on the closet floor that contains a bunch of other Star Wars Legion and X-Wing stuff. For my trading cards and games, leave them alone for now. As for my Tamagotchi and VPET collection, don't do anything with them just yet until we know how things will shake out. A lot of them are rare, expensive, difficult, impossible to replace in the kind of pristine condition they're in.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that being charged with 60 charges of sexual battery, having been caught with 1,700 photos and videos of Madeline Soto being abused, some 35,000 images of child sexual assault material, he is able to just talk to his parents like, hey, let's talk about my toys here for a second, and can you send me money? He was, for some reason, he's able to just completely ignore everything that he's been caught doing. That this is the ugliest side of humanity. This is the deepest, darkest, most disgusting part of humanity that can even exist, and he's concerned about his Tamagotchi.
My Tamagotchis. Stephan Sterns' Facebook page says he worked at Disney World. While it's unclear if that is true or not, some online sleuths believe they tracked down video that appears to show him working at the entrance of Journey into Imagination Traction in Epcot. This video was posted on Travel in 360's YouTube page, and we pulled a still image from the very beginning of the video where you can see a Disney employee who appears to look a lot like Stephan Sterns. Wow, look at that. Then take a listen here to Stephan Sterns' father being interviewed on Hidden True Crime, giving more insight into his childhood.
We're trying to pursue a conversation about an accident Stephan had 30 years ago as the possibility of causing this. Stephan was literally run over by a pickup truck twice. He and a friend were playing in a parking area, and when he was 7 or 8 years old, the guy came out to his truck, a small Toyota pickup truck. Hey guys, how you doing? Gets in the truck and immediately backs over them. Pushes Stephan down into a bit of a hole in the parking lot. Drove right over him, and hit him in the head with the bumper as he backed up the first time, and then. If that was enough, he pulled forward and ran over him again.
Dr. Janie Lacey, could this be it's not an excuse, but an explanation as to why a man might live his life this way based upon some injury, brain injury as a child?
Well, in and of itself would not explain his behavior, but when we look at certain types of complex trauma, and when people have complex trauma and it has not necessarily been treated, it can lead them potentially to have maladaptive ways of living that are not healthy and that are harmful. But in and of itself, a brain trauma or, an accident that has occurred does not necessarily lead people to harm children or become predators. But we would look at multiple things that potentially could have happened in his life that could have created him to be a predator and to have harm in particular to children. But in and of itself, a traumatic accident like such, I would be curious to look at other things alongside of what has happened in his life. But in and of itself, that would be very rare for any types of case studies or anything that comes to mind that would be similar to this case.